Hi Suraj, welcome to
Hi.
Stud Media Group. Speed Cargo will complete 2 years in July. How has your journey been so far?
Yeah, it has been great. Yeah, we are completing 2 years as an independent company, but the journey started in 2015, where we started it as a project supported by the Civil Aviation Authority of Singapore and the Prime Minister's office in Singapore and key stakeholders like Singapore Airlines, SATS and Dnata.
So, since you started Speed Cargo as an independent company, did you have to make any amendments in your business once you started full-fledgedly, or recently did you make any amendments?
Yeah. So this is where, the genesis of Speed Cargo started as a hardcore automation project. So it was basically looking into a very complex robotics problem. And we come from the Technical University of Munich, the computer science faculty for robotics. So we were trying to solve a problem for automatic build-up and breakdown of ULDs. And we figured out that in order to solve this problem first, which is automation, we need to first crack the digitization and optimization problem. So Speed Cargo evolved and ended up developing 3 products: Cargo Eye, Cargo Mind and Cargo Arm for digitization, optimization and automation. And like your question is quite relevant, when we actually converted the project into a business, we figured out that the industry is not yet ready for automation. And if they want to automate, they have to first digitize and optimize. And that's where one of our key strategy shifts happened even before we started the company, that we need to first enter the market with products which the industry will understand and be able to absorb. And those are the digitization and optimization products for the airlines and ground handlers and freight forwarders, and the ones who adopt that will have the opportunity to automate. So that was a big strategy shift for us, which is kind of working out.
So currently there's a lot going on in the world. So of course I'll come to that later. But did you make any improvements currently or any amendments currently very recent in your business?
Definitely, I would not say innovated, we adjusted in terms of pricing, in terms of pricing models. We figured out that some of our products are better suited for a SaaS model, while some of our products require both. It's not that we jump from one business model to another. So for example, some of our products still could be absorbed as a capex model by some companies, while in a similar situation, some other companies prefer an OPEX model. So we had to basically develop a supply chain, helps us to operate in both modes financially as cash flow and all those things. Yes. So that's where we innovated. And of course, we also modified our products where we could scale it to the airlines. So maybe we can talk about it later.
And if you could just take me through how Speed Cargo manages to get capacity for the clients.
Right. So basically, the core of what Speed Cargo does is capacity optimization for the airline. So the whole air freight industry, one thing which is common is the capacity. Yeah? Everybody is basically somehow touching capacity. The freight forwarder, the ground handler, and Speed Cargo's goal has always been to help airlines put more cargo on their planes and put it in a better form. So that is the kind of optimization we do. So just to quote some very high level numbers which are not claimed by us but customers which are trying out our products, we have realized that we are able to release up to 18 to 25% of capacity, which could then be realized to do more business in terms of cargo. And this directly impacts the bottom line of a customer or of an airline in a positive manner. And when the airline does more cargo, the ground handlers does more cargo. So it basically helps both parties, including the freight forwarders, of course.
I would like you to talk a little about how has the business impacted, during the situations like the Russia-Ukraine crisis, we can say the Shanghai lockdown and also the pandemic. How did it impact and how are you overcoming it?
Maybe we start with the pandemic in chronological order. So COVID, of course, was a big hit for everybody. In fact, we formed the company during the peak of COVID. We even managed to raise funds. So that was a positive. The way pandemic worked in a positive manner for us is that in the past, everybody was talking about digitization and optimization. Now they were urgently wanting to do it. Yeah. Nobody was talking about if it is necessary or not. Because, for example, I'll just give you a practical example, right? Singapore Airlines operates probably 3 flights a day to London from Singapore, right? And, cargo capacity for airlines is only between 50 to 60% utilized, unlike passenger, which is 9. And most of the cargo goes on passenger jets. Now, suddenly you have the cargo volumes were going up, because trade was still happening. People were staying home, they need more commodities. But suddenly the capacity was reduced to 30% or even less, because instead of 3 planes, 1 plane was flying. So they realized that we need to pack whatever is available better, right? So that is where SPEEDCARGO plays in the optimization field, because it's a very complex problem, and that's where we have created products for. So that worked in a positive manner for us. So people were not questioning about the product or the need for the product, but the world saw that cargo was doing well. What was really challenging was that cargo was doing well in terms of a business, but the airlines were using this money to sustain the rest of the business, which was not doing well. For example, the passenger sector was dead. So whatever money they were making with cargo, that was going to stabilize or retain the rest of the business. So their capacity to invest, or the decision making to invest, was very, very slow. So the sales cycle in a very complex environment got even more complex. So that is a challenge which we faced. And it still is a challenge, although slightly we see that, like, for example, events like this are happening, capacity is slowly coming back, so hopefully that will improve.
So since we are already talking about capacity, carrying cargo in the passenger cabins is going to be exempted by ESA soon, like from July now, and it will result into a capacity change. So what do you think the impact is going to be on the cargo industry?
Well, yes, I see it. I'm not an expert in terms of how the aviation bodies make decisions, but if they are not going to allow, and this was anyways a short-term solution, it was not a long-term solution. So I hope that this decision is being made with a foresight or with a calculation, probably, that capacity is slowly coming back. So there will be more capacity. Not more capacity, but the previous capacity will slowly come back. Now the challenge would be to how to use that capacity in a better form, not like what you were doing in the past. So this would be my perspective on that.
So it's going to be beneficial for SPEEDCARGO, can we say that?
Absolutely. However, the products which we provide to the ecosystem, basically, it's a transformation product. So it transforms the way you operate. So in order to absorb these kinds of products and technology, you need a vision. So basically, it has to come from the C level to the out. So it's a complete change in thought process. So that is where the challenge is for us in terms of getting the like-minded people on board and getting them to change the way the organization works. So that's, the technology is never the problem. It's implementing it in a legacy industry with legacy processes and people who have been doing things for 20 years, and the change management becomes complex. So that is the challenge for us. There's a big opportunity, but that is also a challenge.
Suraj, have you observed any client demands, any changes in those demands recently, and maybe you have to work towards it about your business optimization?
Well, definitely, I would not say demands, but we've received a lot of positive critical feedback on our products, which helped us to bridge the gap. So, for example, in the last couple of months, we have developed a product for the airline where we do optimization at the booking and the trimming stage. Which helps actually the next stages of ground handling. So this is where we got a lot of feedback in terms of pushing our products to manage even more complex scenarios with a lot of data. So for example, at the ground handlers, we were optimizing at a ULD level, but at the airline, we are optimizing at a flight level. So that was demanding exercise with at least one of the airlines we have been currently working with.
Also, your latest collaboration was with Etihad Cargo.
Yes.
So what is the plan ahead now after signing the deal?
So as you have seen in the news, we have done commercial POC with Etihad in Abu Dhabi, where they have tried all of our products, especially the airline product, and it has gone well. I would not be able to give numbers, but I can say that it has been received in a very positive manner. Currently, we are in confidential discussions with Etihad for a scale-up plan.
So any other such companies you are already in talks with for collaborations you would like to say?
Yes, so we are in parallel conducting with live POCs with Swissport. We will start with Dnata. Swissport at multiple locations in Johannesburg and Tel Aviv. With Dnata and Emirates SkyCargo in Dubai, we will also start POC for Menzies. So yeah, multiple POCs are already going on, and we are already in discussions with multiple very large airlines and ground handlers to do the same.
Do you think that SPEEDCARGO will ever in the future collaborate with drone companies also? I'm saying that because drones is just becoming I think it's going to be the future soon.
So I would say that we would collaborate with any company, be it technology company or a non-technology company, where we can add value to the supply chain of air freight, because what I see that supply chain, for any supply chain, or if you just take air freight in mathematical terms, these are complex systems like traffic or human crowd. These are all complex systems. So modeling these systems are very difficult. So since it's very difficult to model, it is very difficult to optimize the system at a global level. So what you end up doing is try to optimize parts of the system. Like for example, in our case, we are optimizing processes inside the warehouse. But there is the whole trucking ecosystem. There is the freight forwarding ecosystem. So people are trying to optimize a lot of things, but they are in silos. The real benefit is when you can transfer the optimization value from one process to the other, right? So for example, that's where I see your question. If there is a drone company which is providing value to a certain thing and we can extract that value, or the other way, we can give value to something else, then it helps the entire system. So I hope the industry pushes in that direction.
So have you still given a thought about it?
We know what is going on, and for example, probably I know that Dubai has tried some technology in their warehouses, and we are going to operate in similar warehouses in Dubai, and probably there is a collaboration point in the future with possible drone companies, and or I would say technology companies.
Also, talking about freight rates, so they've been increased since the pandemic, and we still see them at spike. What do you think they will stabilize, and once it's stabilized, how is it going to help SpeedCargo and its clients?
If it stabilizes or not stabilizes, it is going to help us, because we are telling the airlines that we can create more space for you with the same amount of cargo. So you can book more cargo. So they are very happy, right? So if the freight rates are even higher, then of course they can make even more money. But I would say the freight rates would stabilize when capacity comes back. Right? But then they also have more capacity to play with. In our case, we help the airlines and the ground handlers, even in pandemics, even if there is no pandemic, if the freight rates are high or low, because in any scenario, if you can manipulate your capacity better, you're going to do better.
So are you facing any challenges when you are building capacity for the airlines? Is there any sort of help or support that you are looking for from your clients?
Like I said, the change management exercise is very important, and this is where you need a lot of support from your customer, and you need to provide a lot of your support to the customer. So for example, the CEO buys into your idea. The CEO makes a mandate that this has to be done, but you can't force technology or new products on people, right? Sometimes they are scared. Sometimes it's about if I'm going to lose my job, and it is not always about losing job. In fact, it upskills you. Right? It makes you relevant in today's time. So there is a lot of education required, and especially technology like ours, which is new to the world. We have to start spending a lot of time on training. And it is not just about training on how to use the product, but it is about the whole thought process of digital transformation, right? Because these are complex things. For example, you did not require training when you moved from a normal phone to a smartphone. Even the person, your banana seller on the ground, yeah. So that was a very seamless process. But that is a very, I would say, simple scenario. Air cargo is very complex, like many other scenarios. So you have to spend a lot of your effort in creating ways to train people on the ground in terms of mindset change.
Any expansion plans for this year or for the coming years?
Yes, so we have just started. So we are a small team in Singapore, basically the core tech team and the business team. But we have already expanded our team to India. We've set up our India operations a couple of weeks back in Pune. And this basically is to strengthen our software development capabilities and also business development capabilities. So we are going to expand that operations. But in parallel, we will also be expanding in the Middle East. So we will have people in the Middle East, because we will be quite active in the Middle East, given our conversations with some important stakeholders, multiple important stakeholders in the air cargo domain in the Middle East.
So any particular air cargo company that you're aiming at apart from Etihad in the Middle East?
So we are already working with Dnata and SkyCargo. So I would say these three form big part. We are also talking to a very big airline in the Middle East. I cannot take the name because we are under NDA, but so it shows that we will be quite busy in the Middle East. So we would need to probably set up a company and develop a team there which can be very close to the customer.
And what are your thoughts on expanding into developed countries like the US and the UK?
We already have plans to enter the European market, which is very concrete. We will enter the American market a bit later. This is just because we are a small team, we need to focus, and we have a pipeline which we need to execute first. So Europe is on the cards. We already have European customers who are currently trialing our system, not in Europe, The plans were actually to do the trials in Europe, but because of COVID, there were a lot of shortage of resources to manage trials. So our stakeholders like Swissport decided to try it in Johannesburg and Tel Aviv. But we have a larger plan for Europe.
So thank you so much, Suraj.
Thank you.
This was a really insightful
Same.
interview. Thank you.
Thank you.